morning, happy Monday. It's gonna be, it's not, oh, yeah, okay, I feel this, listen, every time I've been like, oh, it's an easy week, or oh, it's kind of a chaotic week, it doesn't matter, because nothing goes according to plan anyway. But what's the plan this week? Monday, today's Monday, we are mainly doing, I got horses going on the hot walker, we're doing x-rays and scopes this afternoon, not this morning, and then Tuesday we're starting to take horses swimming. Before, when you get too excited, sometimes I don't always go to the swimming pool. Sometimes I stay on the farm and keep doing what I'm doing over here. Typically my dad will send me videos of when my kids are going to the pool, but my kids aren't going till the October sale, so I don't know how, if I'm gonna be able to get any swim footage of the kiddos, because life anyway. So horses are going to start swimming on Tuesday. They're going to be doing that a lot this week. I think I also have more x-rays and scopes Wednesday or Friday, maybe, potentially, I don't know. And then yeah, so a lot of this week is kind of just fine-tuning things. They're going to start swimming, we're doing x-rays, we're going to start cleaning them up, so getting their ears kind of pretty and just trimming any like weird little fetlock hairs that they happen to have, because we do trank them in order to do x-rays, because we do have to do stifles. And a good chunk of the horses are really good about doing your stifle x-rays, typically when they're older. When they're younger, especially some of my baby boys, they're like, oh, what are you doing up in there? And so, like, and honestly, it's just a lot easier for them to remain perfectly still, because you need these x-rays to be as perfect as possible. So we do trank them. And so when we do trank them for x-rays, we will also go ahead and, clip ears and things of that nature for the first time. Just because he's fighting with a bird is what he's doing. So yeah, that is kind of just, cleaning up and things of that nature. Also, I'll probably start planning on packing and making a list on what I need to get from the store before. I know me and him already had this conversation that I needed to get something from the store, and I've already forgotten what it is. I should have wrote that down. You should have texted it to me. It's fine. I like things in writing because it's easier to remember, but I also always forget to write things down. So, who knows what that says about my brain. Anyway, I'm going to go in and clean stalls for the time being, and I guess get ready to see if this week is actually going to go according to plan, or if everything's going to fall apart, because I can tell you, if we're going to start how yesterday was, over the weekend, a lot of things are happening, and there's going to be a lot of changes. Look, my kid is just having a ball. There's going to be a lot of changes, and I'm still trying to figure out how exactly that's going to work. Because admittedly, I knew this conversation was coming. I thought this was a conversation that was going to be happening 5 years down the line, not yesterday. But I guess we're going to see how this all pans out one way or another.
This is the only kid that wanted to come work today. Look at him. Boing. He always wants to work. So he's... he hit his nose. He is in an individual paddock because he's just a lot. The rest of these guys are out together in this field, and so we cheat. Okay, we cheat. When it's time to put them on the hot walker, obviously we bring this colt in, right? Put him on the hot walker. And then we just grab these horses from the field and put them on, instead of, taking them up to the barn, taking them down. These kids today did not want to come in. Like, normally we're, getting ready and we're, like, on the hot walker and everything by, like, 8:30. Or, like, a little after 8:30. I think it's almost 9 o'clock. Because that one in particular really just did not want to come in. They must have partied too hard this weekend. Actually, ironically, our neighbors had a wedding this weekend, and they also, we were talking, they're like, yeah, no. They're like, I'm so hungover. I went and partied with the kids thinking I could hold my own. Could not. And I was like, valid. It's he's the only one. What a little crackhead. Obviously, this is how everyone else is. Just, it's Monday. We gotta go to work. Yeah. And there's Dingbat over there, having the time of his life. He's like, oh my god, I slept good this weekend. Now I get to terrorize my favorite piece of metal. I'm back. Worst vlogger ever. Anyway, after yesterday's hot walker, literally I just did stalls and then we unloaded straw. So that's all that happened there. Anyway, today, it's cult day. My cults are swimming, except for these, because these are my October. And so they're just gonna go around and around and around. But we do have x-rays later today. I will say, I was a little annoyed because it's always a couple of days before the sale, right? Without fail, every single time, because that is life. Somebody comes in with a scratch or a bite or something that they're not supposed to have. One of my kiddos, because obviously I got my cults up in a group because they are good little angel babies. One of them came in with a big leg today and I was like, and of course it's one of the ones that is getting an x-ray today. Granted, he has like a little scratch is what it is. And so, you know, he just kind of got a scratch on the inside of his leg and his leg went, blew up. And so that's all it is. It's super minor, itty bitty. But obviously he has x-rays today and sometimes the swelling shows up on the x-rays and I'm sitting here looking at him like, really? You couldn't have done this tomorrow? You couldn't have done this like a day ago because I could have gotten the swelling down by then? Like, sir, that was so inappropriate. It was so unneeded. Why? And like, granted, it's better than doing it, you know, day before we go to the sales or something. But still, it's not appreciated. I have to laugh. This is the very first time this filly has been on because she's had hoof issues up until now. And so for anyone who's like, how do they handle it the first time? I mean, once it bumps them in the butt once or twice, they figure it out. But I never crank up the speed until I know that they got the idea that, hey, walk. I don't really like you. Keep going. Get the ugly, ugly head, my girl. Oh, we've turned around. There we go. Keep walking. Good girl. Alright, she seems to be doing... No? There we go. Now we're doing... Are you gonna be okay if I increase your speed? She's like, probably not. But I guess we're gonna figure this out. One way or another. Good. Didn't even have to bump her. It's gonna bump you. Good girl. See? Easy peasy. Alright, we've switched directions now. And see what I mean? This is how quickly the majority of them just pick it up. They just... I mean, it's simple. All it is walking. Just follow the barrier. I feel like some people make it like really dramatic. They're like, oh my god, it's a big deal for them to do... They're walking. They figure it out in 0.2 seconds. I don't know what horses y'all are putting on where they have an epic meltdown every time they see these things. But you just your babies. You just the babies. She's like, yep. Boing boing. Goodness. Yep. You have a lot of catching up to do compared to the rest of the group, that's for sure.
So admittedly, that ended up being a very boring week. So we ended up mainly just doing x-rays, and then when I tell you, I unloaded so much hay and straw that week. I was like, every time they're like, I'll be back this week, I'll be back tomorrow. I'm like, no, don't, go away, I don't want to see you. Anyway, because it was boring, I figured I'd take this time to do a little bit of explanation on why. Well, okay, I'll explain a little bit the x-ray and scope situation for the yearling sales, because that's what we were doing this week mainly. Anytime we're taking a horse that has not been to the racetrack yet, or is at the racetrack and we're still selling as a racing prospect, we have to do x-rays and scopes. Why do we have to do this? It's just kind of a not like a guarantee, but it's just kind of evidence that, hey, you should be okay to run this thing in a circle. So basically, weanlings, yearlings, horses of racing age will, when they go to these sales like this, have to have x-rays, have to have scope. We will do 36 views of their ankles, knees, hocks, and stifles, okay? So mainly from like here down. Admittedly, like, here's the thing. First, you will have kind of seen how these horses grow up before they get to the sale, right? Before they go to the racetrack. From the time they're born, they're just outside mainly. They'll come in for a couple hours, but they're mainly outside with other group of other horses. Once we start putting them in sale prep, yeah, they're gonna go on the hot walker. They don't go past a walk. Yeah, some might jog a little bit and play, but they're walking. They'll swim. Swimming is not putting any pressure on their joints, but that's it. Okay, so it's not like these horses are in like rigorous training or anything of that nature. They're literally outside being babies. And when I tell you, no matter, you could bubble wrap them all you want, it don't matter. You do all these x-rays, and yeah, sure, a good chunk of them, they're gonna be clean, right? Nothing, nada. The other chunk, I don't know how or why or where they managed to do all this stuff, but some of them, you're just like, why? And honestly, sometimes when we get the vet reports, it's just words. Like, I'll be reading this, I'm like, and I'll ask the vet, I'm like, what does this even mean? And they're like, oh, it just means, like, you're fine, don't worry about it. I'm like, no. What does this mean? They're like, it generally is not a problem. I'm like, fabulous. Why do you put it on there? And they're like, well, we have to put it on there because we can see it. Fabulous, fabulous. Make a note. At least put okay. And they're like, oh, fine. Anyway, I've been in my car too long. Anyway, so we're doing all these x-rays just to kind of show, and so like we give the potential buyers access to it. So they have, once we take all the x-rays, they type up a report, right? And in that report, we have the report that we can show the potential buyers. If the potential buyers want to do a little bit more digging, they can call their vet and say, hey, I have a horse I want to buy. Can you take a look at the x-rays? And the vet is like, cool. And they have access to, we have a repository where we keep all the actual the pictures of the x-rays. And they can actually look at the physical x-ray themselves, make their own assessment on it. If, yeah, I think it's good, but, or this is my, if there is something there, they can make their opinion of, oh, I think this is something that, like, you know, give it like 60 days it'll turn out, it's not gonna be nothing, or like, this is something that's gonna take a while to heal, or, oh yeah, that's there, but it's fine, I'm not worried about it, blah, blah, blah. They're able to make their own assessment. Because some people obviously trust their vets more than others. I'll be the first to admit, there are certain vets who I know that that's the consignment they use. I would prefer to call my own vet and be like, can you look at this stuff because I don't trust so-and-so, right? At the same time, so that's what the x-rays are there. We have, like, it's kind of just a mandatory thing at this point. There's a few people who complain about the fact that they're mandatory, and I'm like, that's stupid. Get over yourself. It costs us a little under $1,000 to do all this. Like, and they're like, well, yeah, but what if you only have horses that are worth $1,000? I don't care. Do your x-rays. Like, this is the same person, mind you, that regularly sells, you know, horses in like 6 figures. So why they complain about having to do x-rays, I don't know. It just rubs me weird. But I know some more tea on this person that doesn't make them a great person, so it's not surprising. Anyway, where was I? Okay, yes. Also, repository. We also have the ability to put a video scope for the repository. So what is the scope exactly? They're going to have this long little noodle thing with a camera on the end, and they're going to put it down the horse's nose all the way down, and they're going to hold off their airway for a little bit, and then they're going to release so that they take a big breath, okay? And basically what they're doing that is just to make sure that there is no abnormalities in there as well, because yes, you could have abnormalities in your breathing in your throat. Now granted, with weanlings specifically, they can still be kind of immature from time to time in their throat, and so you might have a few little issues from there. With horses at this stage, you shouldn't have any issues. Occasionally you might do things like an acupuncture to kind of help jumpstart little things. Oh my goodness, little things. Like if you look at it and be like, oh, maybe it's like a little bit lazy, a little disproportionate. Let's do some acupuncture and see if that fixes it. Sometimes it does. Most of the time it does, really. Sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't, you probably might have a bigger problem. Sorry, I'm sick. I'm having my own respiratory issues right now. So yeah, this is all stuff we do that kind of just is a way of us to be like, hey, these are horses that are going to do an athletic job. Here's evidence that they should be okay to do an athletic job, or at least have the beginnings to. So that's kind of what it is and what we do it. It is mandatory for us to do, blah, blah, blah. It's really, like, you know, it's cool. It's fine. If people, like, again, people complain. There's some people who complain about it being mandatory, but I'm like, the world ain't gonna end. You know, like, if you have bad x-rays, you have bad x-rays. Understandably, horses don't read their x-rays. So, you know, but I think that it's kind of up to you as the potential buyer to make the decision of, like, with your resources, being like, hey, this is the situation, this is what my vet says about it, this is what the horse looks like, do I think it's worth the risk? You know, like, I'll be honest. So what are things that I do or do not like in x-rays? I do not mind chips in the ankle. A lot of times, sometimes it does depend on where they are, but most of the time, honestly, you can leave them in and it'll be fine, right? There's some of them that do need to come out, but, you know, a good chunk of it at the time, they're fine. Chips and knees, I don't love, just because that's preference. I don't mind spurs, and most people, like, most of the time spurs, they don't bug a horse, right? It's very rare when they're going to be like, hey, you're going to have to shave it down a bit, right? Typically the issue you might run into spurs, specifically spurs in your knees, is if they smack it, you might end up, and they might break off that spur, and you might have a chip now. Occasionally an issue. OCDs and stifles are one of those things. I think I don't care about them anymore, especially depending on where they're located. I've seen so many where it just doesn't bug them at all, and I look at it, I'm like, it's not going to be a problem. It's not even nowhere near to worry about. Yeah, those are kind of, I guess, the basics for what a lot of people will think. There's some other stuff that sometimes will be freaking sesamoiditis. Sesamoiditis is like a newer thing that kind of started showing up once the x-ray machines got better and better. Here's the thing, none of us really know what causes it. Like, we have ideas, we have no idea how to fix it. The thing is, I have never ever had a horse that had sesamoiditis that was not sound later down the road. You know, forget. So basically, the concern with sesamoiditis, I'm also trying to change at the same time. I'm not doing a very good job at that. The thing with sesamoiditis is that it is a concern with the tendons and ligaments and all the branches and everything that connect, on whether or not the sesamoiditis is actually affecting that portion of the leg. And so if it is a cause for concern, we will ultrasound the tendons and ligaments just to see what exactly it looks like, make sure there's no tears or anything of that nature or inflammation, and it's just a little bit of irritation on the sesamoid, right? I have never ever had an issue with them, but I don't know if it's just because it's kind of newer and we haven't really figured out what treats it. Some people, they see it and they're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, have you ever had a horse that was not sound because of it? And they're like, no. I'm like, I don't understand the problem then. That's just a me thing. But okay, and again, sometimes vets will just be putting stuff on the report and I'm like, what is this? I don't know. They don't know. Anyway, I'm supposed to be changing. This is not my shirt. But yeah, so that's basically what the kind of week was. Honestly, I'm sorry, it was kind of boring. This was a bad vlogging week. It was truly just mainly we did some x-rays, and then I unloaded so much hand straw. I was over it. So yeah, anyway, I will see you all next time. I think for you all, I like am running a week or two behind, like as I stagger them out. So like, you know, I'm currently at the sales. I think the next video for you all, I'm getting ready to move to the, I'm either getting ready to move to the sale or I have officially moved in. I don't know. It'll be a surprise for us all because when I edit it, because I don't know. Anyway, until next time.